Welcome to the Politicrat. I'm Omar Moore. It is Tuesday, August the 25th, 2020.
Ladies and gentlemen, leaders and fighters for freedom and liberty and the American dream, the best is yet to come.
That was audio from last night's night one of the Republican National Convention. A convention with no platform, which really means that anything goes if Donald Trump were to be put into office next year. 4 years of anything goes does not sound good for the American public. And the fact that you've got no Republican convention platform at all speaks volumes. It means that absolutely anything goes, like a fascist dictatorship, for example. That is exactly what the playbook is. And with all the lying on parade on display last night, all the cynicism, all the bitterness, all the projection and the gaslighting and the hatred, is there any wonder that they didn't need a platform? Because the platform was all about Donald Trump and scaring you from start to finish. The fear-mongering, the racism, the lies, the gaslighting, the projection. They should have just called this the Projection Convention. On this edition of the Politicrat, a look back at all the lowlights from last night's night one, with some fact-checking as well, of the Republican National Convention. Right after this. All of these people were just flat out lying, and Ronna McDaniel, from the very moment she got on stage, Charlie Kirk before her. Charlie Kirk was an absolute joke, and there's no reason to play much of any of these people speaking, because it's just a bunch of lies. I only play some of them, however, to just highlight to you, because I know a lot of people did not watch night one of this convention on the Republican side, and I call it a convention. And, you know, a lot of people aren't going to watch this convention at all during these next 3 nights, beginning tonight, Tuesday night, going on through Thursday when Trump speaks. Trump is actually going to be appearing every single night. And he's going to have some kind of speaking role, whether it's pre-recorded or whether it is live. And then, of course, he will speak live from the White House or the White House lawn, probably from the White House itself, on Thursday to accept the nomination from the Republican Party. I mean, he was in Charlotte making an ass of himself yesterday and saying all these very dangerous things about the election. If he doesn't win, that means it's rigged. I mean, that's just crazy. And before I get to some of these other excerpts from last night, let me play you something that Bernie Sanders had to say. And he said this on CNN with Anderson Cooper on Monday. And it's worth listening to this, because there was a lot going on Monday, a lot. And, you know, Jacob Blake being shot 7 times in the back at point blank range. I mean, by Wisconsin police, an African-American man with his 3 kids in his car. 3 kids in the car. They all witnessed it. Happened right in front of them. And no reason to. Man's unarmed. He's not doing anything. And it was just absolutely because they felt like killing a black man. Right now, Jacob Blake is in stable condition, incredibly enough. And I pray that he gets through this and that he is not paralyzed because, man, oh man, I don't even want to think about it. I have not watched the video, by the way. I refuse to. I'm sure some of you have seen it, but I refuse to watch it. There's no utility in watching anything like that. And it just only amplifies what the protests have been about all summer long, and they will continue and have continued. So we need justice for Jacob Blake. So much going on. I mean, Eric Trump has now been, I think, subpoenaed by the New York Attorney General on charges of I think, fraud. Just more fraud cases, more criminality, more alleged criminality in the Trump crime family. I mean, this is just crazy. Then the stuff with the Conways, both Kellyanne Conway and George Conway are taking steps back from their positions. Conway, in less than a week, will be leaving the White House to attend to family matters with their daughter. George Conway will be leaving the Lincoln Project. Both of them are staunch Republicans. In fact, both of them are staunch conservatives, but especially George Conway, who's on Twitter, has got quite a following on Twitter. I follow him. And his daughter, Claudia, I feel very sorry for. She's been on Twitter railing against both of her parents and the politics that they're playing and how she dislikes it. And you can go on her Twitter feed. I'm not going to go give it out, quite frankly, even though I follow her, because it's just, you can find her fairly easily. But it's just horrible, all of this. Then the stuff with Marianne Trump-Barry, of course. I mean, then the stuff now with Jerry Falwell Jr. apparently resigning from Liberty University with all of the scandals swirling around him and these so-called great family values that he has. He seems to like watching his life. He seems to like watching his life, yeah. He seems to like watching his wife have sex with other men, which is apparently what the pool boy, forget his name now, said that he was doing while the pool boy was stumping his Jerry Falwell Jr.'s wife, Becky. So this is these are these Christian people, right? Christian values and family values and Republican family values. I sound a little bit like, well, I don't sound like her. Shirley Chisholm there a little bit, but not really. But these Republican family values, and this is the Republican Party. We're the party of family values and decent families and kids and a white picket fence and we care about our spouse and yeah, right. Shut up. And a 10-year relationship? We really? Look, I'm not trying to gloat here. This is personal, private stuff. I get it. There are people in the world who love to see their spouses having sex with other men or women. I mean, I know that happens in real life, okay? We all know that happens in real life. But the reason why people are having a go at Jerry Falwell Jr., who a few weeks ago posted on Instagram this weird picture with a woman, not his wife, standing there with her pregnant stomach and I guess almost her panty line showing, and him with his gut out and his flies down. And it's just disgusting from him. And then he pulled that picture down. This guy needs some help, by the way. He obviously needs to get some I can't even talk with this. Psychological or psychiatric help. He needs counseling. Obviously, there's a pattern here. And then, apparently there was an alleged extortion or rumor, and there's these texts. I mean, it gets really grimy, right? Because you don't want to scrutinize this guy's personal life, but you know the reason why you do want to is because this is the guy that declared Liberty University, a paragon of cleanliness. We won't let you black people and white people have any kind of dating on this campus. In fact, we're banning that. Liberty University banned dating between people of different racial backgrounds. As recently as 4 or 5 years ago, that ban was still in place, and I think they lifted it during the Obama years, I guess. I don't know. But, the Falwells are a bunch of racists anyway as well, on top of it. I've got no sympathy for any of that. And I'm sorry, you can say what you want, but obviously the wife didn't mind either. Becky, she didn't mind. I mean, the text messages are out there. CNN put them on the air. And her text messages certainly did not show any kind of reluctance. For the pool boy. The pool boy pounding away while Jerry Falwell Jr. with his fly down in an Instagram photo watched. Yeah, sure he watched. Yeah, that's the only thing he was doing. Oh, gosh. I guess you need some comic relief. Welcome back. Maximo Alvarez was one of the speakers at the Republican National Convention last night. He is a Cuban man who fled that country and became an American citizen. He is a business owner. And I want you to just listen to this bit of lying, projection, and gaslighting, all at the same time.
Because President Trump may not always be politically correct. He's in fact a successful businessman, not your average career politician. Our president is just another family man, a friend, and most important, our elected commander-in-chief who puts America first. Keep in mind, the other guy running for president is mostly concerned about power. Yes, power for them, but not for the benefit of all Americans.
This Republican National Convention, and I knew it because I told you that this is exactly what was going to happen, and you knew it as well, obviously, was going to be a parade of lies and hate and projection, and the Democrats hate America, and Joe Biden is a lefty, and all of this kind of nonsense. And it was all going to be about fear and hate, racism, anger. And that's exactly what night one was. And the lies and the gaslighting were on display in relentless fashion. Kimberly Guilfoyle just flat out lied throughout her speech, as did everybody. Pretty much every single person. One after the other, lie after lie after lie. Kimberly Guilfoyle, I'm going to play parts of this speech and I'm going to break in with some fact checking, as I will for pretty much all of these, as I have for all of these speeches. Here is the first portion that I want to play to you, or at least a portion, the first clip, and then I want to respond to what she says here.
When President Trump cut middle-class taxes, putting tens of thousands of dollars back in the pockets of working-class Americans, that beacon began to flicker once again.
First of all, no, Donald Trump did not put thousands of dollars back into working class people's pockets. Those tax cuts were for the rich. And during his time in the White House, Donald Trump, on at least 3 occasions, has had tax cuts for the top 1% of this country. What Kimberly Guilfoyle is referring to is the stimulus package that was fought for by the House Democrats. Donald Trump showed very little interest or inclination to do anything about a stimulus package where people were getting $1,200 checks. And it was people who were earning, I guess, $90,000 or under $75,000 who were benefiting from them, the first round of stimulus. And there's only been one stimulus check sent out, and Donald Trump was so eager to get his name written on it. Do you remember? Some people didn't even get those checks, and some dead people did. So Kimberly Guilfoyle there is conflating tax cuts with what people under $75,000 or so earnings were getting for a one-time stimulus check of $1,200. See how slick and dangerous that is? She conflates a tax cut for billionaires and for the wealthy with working class people getting millions of dollars in their pockets, thousands of dollars in their pockets, she said. She conflates these two very different things. Very dangerous. Here's some more from Kimberly Guilfoyle.
When he negotiated historic trade deals with Canada, Mexico, Japan, and China, bringing back thousands of manufacturing jobs to America, that beacon shined bright once again for the world to see.
Thousands of manufacturing jobs back. Well, Guilfoyle has to look at these really, really carefully when she says all this. When she has to look at this, because here she says, thousands of manufacturing jobs back to America. Well, in his first year in office, according to Forbes magazine, February 10th, 2020, Donald Trump in 2017, manufacturing jobs went up to a growth of 185,000. In the following year, that went up to 264,000. That's 2018. And last year, 2019, that plummeted from 264,000 to 58,000. So that was a massive drop-off. And now that the coronavirus has come along, Donald Trump is going to see manufacturing jobs shrink even more by the end of this calendar year, 2020. And the notion that these trade deals with China have been any great shakes, Kimberly, is absolute bunk. Farmers have suffered greatly under these trade wars, these phony, stupid trade wars, actually, that Donald Trump was waging. And it led to China getting crops and beans from elsewhere because Donald Trump was putting tariffs on all these things, so that he raised the price on them for China, or certainly taxed them, had this tariff on them. So those farming goods were being priced higher, which meant that the Chinese weren't going to buy them. The Chinese relied on these bean crops and other farming crops from American farmers, U.S. farmers, for many a year. Then Donald Trump comes in and says, well, no, I'm going to show how big and tough I am, which he's not. And I'm going to have a trade war with you and put tariffs on. I mean, Donald Trump started this tariff thing and this trade war. There was no need for it. And American farmers suffered. Many of them committed suicide, by the way. They ended their lives because The Chinese, who are a massive purchaser of their goods and who have a robust economy, much stronger economy than the United States does, and they are an economic superpower now, you better believe it. And because the U.S. farmers weren't getting the benefit of that money, they had to shut down a lot of their farms. And some of them ended up, like I said, taking their lives. Notice that on night number one, you didn't see anything about farmers. You didn't really see anything about farmers and how they're doing. And there's a reason for that. More of this fact-checking all the lies, or at least some of them, because we'll be here for 3 days if I did that in a moment.
When President Trump commanded the defeat of ISIS, took out al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, and paved the way for peace in the Middle East, that beacon started to glow.
That is a bold-faced lie. Donald Trump did not defeat ISIS. That is flat-out lies. Donald Trump pulled U.S. military personnel, the special forces, from the Syrian-Turkish border last October. That was in 2019. They were ordered, these special forces, to withdraw from their posts. The special forces were at that border to protect the Kurds because the Kurds had been busy capturing ISIS prisoners. And the Kurds had been taking the brunt of the casualties, over 16,000. And Donald Trump bailed on the Kurds. There's no two ways about it. He bailed on them. He chickened out. He pulled U.S. Special Forces away from the Syrian-Turkish border. And he actually did an adversarial country, Turkey, a big favor, along with its dictator Erdogan. Did him a huge favor by pulling out U.S. Special Forces, were ordered to withdraw. That paved the way for ISIS to escape their imprisonment by the Kurds. The Kurds had imprisoned ISIS fighters in their camps. And once there was no longer any cover for the Kurds, no more protections for the Kurds, the ISIS fighters escaped their prisons, escaped their camps, and went on a killing spree. Donald Trump did not defeat ISIS. He helped ISIS. Listen to this from protesters who were in favor and are in favor of helping the Kurds. They protested last October outside and near the White House. I want you to listen to this.
Withdrawing support for the Kurds is going to lead to the genocide. And that is my concern. And I beg you to do the right thing in ensuring that the Kurds have protection.
If the war starts, like if Turkey gets into like northern Syria, it's not going to be limited by just with Syria. The Kurds in Turkey, the Kurds in everywhere, like in the world, they're not going to just like watch everything silently. It's just the war is gonna spread out like in the Turkish part of Kurdistan, in Iraqi part of Kurdistan, and we're not gonna watch Turkey just like do whatever they want. And we want the United States government, especially the president, to think wisely and to review his decisions and to make a wise decision that will help like the region and just will bring peace, not chaos and more casualties, more death, more pain.
I mean, that's the simple facts. Those are protesters outside of the White House last October 2019. Because the fact of the matter is that with Donald Trump's foolish, reckless policy, which was severely criticized at the time, including by Lindsey Graham, one of his most ardent supporters, with that foolish move, dangerous move, to take the U.S. Special Forces out from near that Turkish-Syria border, you then give the green light to Erdogan and Turkish forces to come in, overwhelm the Kurds, kill the Kurds, and free the ISIS fighters. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. Dangerous, reckless, foolish. There were 3 ISIS suicide bombings on the Kurdish military positions in Raqqa, Syria. That happened this is just crazy. That happened right after this. Right after this, almost instantly. I mean, within a day or so after, or even less, within a day or so of Donald Trump ordering out U.S. Special Forces to give a dictator, be it that is Erdogan, of Turkey, green light to go in. This was such a dangerous move. And sure enough, 3 ISIS suicide bombings on Kurdish military positions, the Kurdish SDF, under attack. Donald Trump did not defeat ISIS, Kimberly Guilfoyle. Donald Trump unleashed ISIS. And Donald Trump made the region weaker and gave the upper hand to a dictator and an enemy country named Turkey. Donald Trump sided with the dictator. And Donald Trump has 2 hotels in the dictator's country of Turkey, in Istanbul to be precise, inside of Turkey. And I'm sure that that deal to let the U.S. troops stand down was in favor of making sure that the hotels that are built in Istanbul, the Trump hotels, stay thriving. This is thoroughly repugnant. And it's more repugnant still when almost a year later, Kimberly Guilfoyle shouts and screams and yells and lies all at the same time. In fact, she kind of reminded me of this person.
Welcome back to Justice. Just the other day, the president talked or was hoping about the possibility of reopening everything on...
Sorry, wrong clip. That was the drunk edition of Judge Jeanine. No. I mean this clip here. This is the clip. This is who Kimberly Guilfoyle sounded like.
The American people see through it. Stop trying to ride both sides of every issue and stop trying to scare people as if you were the only good and decent person in the race. Unlike you, Joe, Donald Trump made his own money and he hasn't asked the government for it, and he doesn't cut deals while he's in the government for his son and his family. So stop with your sanctimonious, condescending, holier-than-thou nonsense, and above all, stop lying to me. And get out of the bunker.
Definitely, that's who Kimberly Guilfoyle sounded like. Judge Jeanine Pirro, the sober edition. And that was Judge Jeanine Pirro over the weekend, last weekend. I mean, this is an absolute joke. Or maybe, perhaps even more so, I think Kimberly Guilfoyle sounded like this person.
Our steelworkers and our miners are going back to work again. We will build the roads, highways, bridges, tunnels, airports, and the railways of tomorrow. We are going to build a great border wall to stop illegal immigration. We will repeal and replace disastrous Obamacare.
Yeah, Kimberly Guilfoyle sounded like him, most of all.
His promise was to put America first, and he has.
Welcome back. And finally, just to finish off with Kimberly Guilfoyle, who was shouting her speech as that was just outrageously ridiculous. It's a reality TV show, and what you saw, what you heard, was somebody shouting as if she was on a movie set. It's all deliberately done that way. And it's just very, very juvenile. Kimberly Guilfoyle shouted her lies. And one more thing, as I said, about that speech from Kimberly Guilfoyle. And she talked about America first. Donald Trump puts America first. Yeah, right. Since when did Donald Trump put anything but himself first? Donald Trump doesn't put America first. He's put America last. Rock bottom. He's destroyed this country. He's allowed 180,000 people to die in this country from his inaction on coronavirus. He had known about coronavirus coming into this country almost a year ago. ABC News and the Israel Times and numerous publications have all said that in September of 2019, Donald Trump received intelligence briefings and passed them on to the Israelis and said that there was going to be coronavirus and that it is already inside the United States. So all of that inaction from last September, and still hasn't really properly acted yet. No testing plans, nothing. And we're almost a year in. The idea that anybody would believe that Donald Trump puts America first or has ever done is a complete and utter farce. And he's been on record so many times talking about how much he hates America, and he slanders it all the time. I mean, it's just an absolute shambles. This is a guy who hates America. He takes the side of Vladimir Putin, an adversary, an enemy of this country. A Russian dictator, he takes the side of that over the United States intelligence agencies. This guy tramples all over the Constitution of the United States. The guy uses the White House for his nomination speech, acceptance speech. And I know that doesn't violate the Hatch Act, but it really should, though. It's just despicable. And not to mention all the other things, all the protocols he's violated, all the laws he's broken. And colluding with Russia in the first place, joining Russia in the first place, accepting their help in the first place to try to win an election in 2016, steal an election. I mean, this is exactly what's happened. The same thing with Ukraine. He was impeached for this, trying to curry favor with the Ukraine president to try to get dirt on Joe Biden, which failed miserably. That was just over a year ago. And now look, here is Joe Biden, poised, in my estimation, to win this presidential election. We may not know that he's won it for about a week or so, but I'm fairly confident now, very confident now that he will. And then you look at what you saw last night at night one of the Republican National Convention. And that was essentially over because, of course, the convention business really got underway in the morning. And it wasn't until these speeches, which most of which were pre-recorded, that you saw what was going on. And just quickly with some of these other speakers, like Jim Jordan, completely lying about what the Democrats have wanted. The Democrats, I mean, it's just crazy. I'm not going to play his speech either. I was going to, then I decided not to. This guy should be behind bars. This is a guy who aided and abetted child molestation and rape on campus at Ohio State University while he was a gym coach there. That's why he's called for the wrestling team while he was a coach there, assistant coach. That's why he's called Jim Jordan, Jim with G-Y-M, because this guy clearly knew something, and he somehow, I didn't know anything, yeah, right. But the problem is not only Jim Jordan, it's the constituents that continue to vote him in year after year, every 2 years. So that goes to show you how it is in that part of Ohio where he governs, where he in quotes represents. I'm not going to play his speech. It's just a waste of time. It really is. I just can't get over Maximo Alvarez and, Donald Trump is, he's a successful businessman. Yeah, okay, yeah, he only bankrupted, 5 or 6 of his businesses, including 2 casinos. I mean, yeah, real success that is. Oh, God. Oh, dear, dear, dear. I mean, between that and Jeanine Pirro the other day going, at least Donald Trump doesn't cut deals while he's in government for his son and his family. Oh, yeah, right. Are you kidding me? Judge Jeanine Pirro, drunk as a skunk, talking about, at least he doesn't cut deals. Donald Trump doesn't cut deals while he's in government for his son and his family. Oh, are you kidding me? You're just talking nonsense. It's just nonsense, mate. I think 2 of the most despicable. Look, all of these speeches were really bad, full of lies, as I said, projection, and just a lot of hatred for the country. I mean, all of this gaslighting as well. It was so disgusting. Not a kind or affectionate word said about anyone or anything. It was all this jingoistic talk, all these lies. It was just even Don Trump Jr., and I'm not going to play you anything he says or said, but even he could not say a good word about his own dad, precisely because Donald Trump Jr.'s aunt said it all for him.
Goddamn tweet and the lie. Oh my God, I'm talking too freely, but it's the change of stories, the lack of preparation, the lying, the holy shit.
By far, I have to say that the worst of the lot tonight, and there were a lot of worsts, but I think the worst of the lot tonight had to be the McCloskeys. I mean, they were a real piece of work You know, those two white people, you know, the white couple who got on their lawn. You know, remember that? And they were like, get off my lawn, you know, with their guns out in St. Louis, Missouri. You know, these are the kinds of people that Clint Eastwood would be proud of. Middle-aged white couple sitting there on a couch, and they're all, obviously they're very well off. And, you know, they're sitting there and lying and saying all these things. Listen to the kind of fear-mongering here and the racism dripping from their lips as they're speaking, not with dog whistles, but bullhorns.
What you saw happen to us could just as easily happen to any of you who are watching from quiet neighborhoods around our country. And that's what we want to speak to you about tonight. They're not satisfied with spreading the chaos and violence into our communities. They want to abolish the suburbs altogether by ending single-family home zoning. This forest rezoning would bring crime, lawlessness, and low-quality apartments into now thriving suburban neighborhoods. President Trump smartly ended this government overreach, but Joe Biden wants to bring it back. These are the policies that are coming to a neighborhood near you. So make no mistake, no matter where you live, your family will not be safe in the radical Democrats' America.
That's exactly right. Whether it's the defunding of police, ending cash bail so criminals can be released back out on the streets the same day to riot again, or encouraging anarchy and chaos on our streets, it seems as if the Democrats no longer view the government's job as protecting honest citizens from criminals, but rather protecting criminals from honest citizens. Not a single person in the out-of-control mob you saw at our house was charged with a crime. But you know who was? We were. They've actually charged us with felonies for daring to defend our home.
Oh, these are the policies that are coming to a neighborhood and a town near you. Oh, be afraid, be very afraid, be afraid. I mean, that's what that was. All of that from the McCloskeys was the racist messaging to white people in not just the suburbs, but any white person who just is either racist or just someone looking for something to justify them trying to vote for Donald Trump. Well, I'm afraid and I'm white and I'm racist, and so I'll vote for Donald Trump. Or I'm having these thoughts about racist things and yeah, maybe I just need to come clean. You know, I'm going to just put my Klan hood on and my Klan sheets and robes or whatever you call those bloody things. And I put my sheet over my head and my face. And then I can feel comfortable going to the voting booth. Vote for this Klansman. Oh, geez, you got to be kidding me. The McCloskeys were disgusting and terrifying because they sat there, so normal, looking normal in the way of, they're just an everyday couple. Yeah, right. But what lurks underneath is this really racist, violent, dangerous bile that a lot of white Americans connect with. I mean, not every white American. I mean, of course, not everyone. But there is a certain cross-segment. Some of them here in San Francisco, for that matter, too. It's not just limited to the suburbs. And there's plenty of black people in the suburbs, too, and plenty of brown people there, and some Asians. So this idea that there's, oh, my goodness, be very careful. These policies are coming to your town. Just crazy. This is not going to work. I mean, yes, sure, you'll peel off maybe a couple of people here and there, but this convention is all about, and certainly night one last night was all about consolidating the base that the Republicans, or rather Donald Trump, has, and just preaching to them and solidifying them. he's not really going to get he's not going to get any additional people really. He'll get maybe a small 0.5%. Some of the people he's going to target black men, which is one thing he will definitely do because he got 13% of their vote last time, 13. Right now, he's projected to probably I think he'll get somewhere around 6% of it, which is still, for black men, quite a lot. But that would represent an over 50% drop from the previous time. And I think you're going to see a lot more black men come back to the Democratic Party and not stay home as well. And also these police shootings of black men. Hey, that does not help your cause, Donald Trump. And when you've got LeBron James and all these other prominent athletes in the NBA in particular and in the NFL coming out and making it clear where they stand on all this, it's certainly going to maybe not be the game breaker for some black men, but I think there will be some black men who will be looking at that. And they don't need LeBron to tell them. I mean, come on. Young brother minding his own business and you shoot him 7 times in the back? Jeez, crazy. Unbelievable. But not unbelievable because this goes on every day in the United States of America.
For their entire legal careers, their neighbors, their employers, their tenants. They even destroyed a beehive of the Jewish children at the Jewish temple next door because they thought it was too close to their property. Took an axe out. These children had a beehive so they could make honey for Rosh Hashanah. That's the kind of guys these folks are. In addition, they own thousands of dollars in back taxes. So that's the McCloskey. So can I just ask?
That was how Claire McCaskill, the former senator of Missouri, described the McCloskeys yesterday when she was speaking about them after their appalling and racist speech before the Republican National Convention in a video. So Claire McCaskill, the former senator, knows a lot about these McCloskeys. They are criminals. They've been indicted and they're up on charges now. And as you heard her say, they have a horrible history of breaking laws and not paying taxes and of being cruel human beings. Finally, Nikki Haley, and gosh, oh my goodness. I mean, I'm not even going to go and talk about Tim Scott, but Nikki Haley was just absolutely abysmal last night. Absolutely abysmal. She lied and lied and lied and lied some more and said that, well, I'm going to just play the clips in succession for you, and then I'm going to make one comment after the clips. All right, brace yourselves. Brace yourself, please, for Nikki Haley, the former governor of South Carolina.
In much of the Democratic Party, it's now fashionable to say that America is racist. That is a lie. America is not a racist country. This is personal for me. I am the proud daughter of Indian immigrants. They came to America and settled in a small southern town. My father wore a turban. My mother wore a sari. I was a brown girl in a black and white world. We faced discrimination and hardship, but my parents never gave in to grievance and hate. My mom built a successful business. My dad taught 30 years at a historically black college, and the people of South Carolina chose me as their first minority and first female governor. And of course we value and respect every black life. The black cops who've been shot in the line of duty, they matter. The black small business owners who've watched their life's work go up in flames, they matter. The black kids who've been gunned down on the playground, their lives matter too. And their lives are being ruined and stolen by the violence on our streets. It doesn't have to be like this.
Nikki Haley was the former governor. She used to be the governor of South Carolina. And for Nikki Haley, as an Indian American woman, or someone who has background in India, for her to say that America is not a racist country is absolutely disgusting. For God's sake, man, have you not opened your eyes? It's just so ridiculous. You're going to gaslight like this? You're going to gaslight? It's not a racist country? America is not a racist country? Come on. You cannot be serious, in the words of John McEnroe. You cannot be serious, Governor Haley. Surely you jest. Although it's not something to be making a joke about. America is not a racist country? Jeez, God. And, Black lives, we care about Black lives. They matter. The life of a black cop and what? But not the black man like Jacob Blake, who gets shot 7 times in the back at close range on top of it. But not George Floyd. He didn't even mention George Floyd. I mean, some other speakers did, briefly. I think it was the black speakers who did. But you're not even going to mention George Floyd or Breonna Taylor or come on. Ahmaud Arbery or David McAteer or McAtee. I mean, come on.
You know, if Nikki Haley really believed that all those Black lives matter, then she wouldn't be a part of a party that continues to stand in the way of gun control. You know, we continue to see this hypocrisy come from the GOP over and over and over again. And tonight it was on full and proud display. This thing was like a Willie Horton ad on steroids, quite frankly. And we have to be very clear. Donald Trump is making a clear play for Black voters. He knows he's not going to win the majority of us or even a plurality, but what he can do is attempt to peel off a few percentage points of Black voters in essential states and do what we now know he was very excited about, given that leaked audio coming out of an early meeting when his administration began in 2016, that he was very excited that a lot of these misinformation and disinformation ploys had worked in certain spaces. But we have to be very, very clear and not allow somebody like Nikki Haley or Donald Trump to misrepresent what has been happening to Black Americans under this administration. Earlier today at the RNC, Donald Trump said that he was the best president for Black Americans since Lincoln. He would, of course, tout those low unemployment numbers for Black people before COVID-19. But what he won't tell you is that both the wage gap and the wealth gap between Black and white Americans is growing, not shrinking under his presidency. He's rolled back the health care and environmental protections that we need. His Department of Education does not investigate the civil rights claims in the ways that it needs to. This Department of Justice, which he has full control over, does not investigate the departments that continue to kill Black and brown people wantonly, as James Blake almost had done to him just yesterday in Kenosha, Wisconsin. He has disrespected our countries. He has disrespected our heroes. He has failed to meet the moment of a pandemic that is disproportionately killing Black people. And he's done all of this while emboldening the white supremacists who threaten our lives every single day. If Donald Trump is the best president for Black Americans since Abraham Lincoln, then you can call me the Queen of England.
Well said, Brittany Packnett Cunningham. I really appreciate what you had to say on MSNBC last night. I couldn't have said it better myself. Brittany Packnett Cunningham is an activist and strategist, political strategist, activist, author, and she made a really great point last night about Nikki Haley. A point that needed to be made. Somebody, I forget which speaker it was, said, oh, well, you know, there's violence in these, it might have been Jim Jordan, there's violence in these democratic cities and their mobs and all that. Just give me a break. I mean, what's happening? Oh, and the Democrats don't want to call the police. I mean, I think it was Jim Jordan, somebody. And it's just garbage. All of these police killings, by the way, every single last one of them happened in states with Democratic governors. The killing of Breonna Taylor, oh, and there's one exception, Ahmaud Arbery, and that was not a police killing. I'm talking about with the police. Since someone there, and I forgot who, said Democrats don't like to call the police, they don't want to. Well, I mean, police were called in these states that were run by Democratic governors. Wisconsin with Jacob Blake. The governor of Wisconsin is Tony Evers. With Breonna Taylor, the governor of Kentucky is Steve Beshear. I mean, come on, folks. Come on. George Floyd, the governor of the state of Michigan, the governor of the state of Minnesota, is a Democrat. What do you mean the Democrats don't like to call the police? This happens in Democratic states that are run by Democrats and then states run by Republicans or Republican governors. It's just so dishonest, the whole thing. It really is. Really is. I mean, I could go on all... Well, I'm not going to, though. I'm not going to. I mean, I could go on about other things like Louis DeJoy testifying on Monday. Oh, my gosh. He was just an absolute train wreck. He was an absolute train wreck yesterday. Ugh, it's just really disgusting. And this nonsense about the economy never being stronger and that, oh my goodness, Donald Trump had this great I mean, that was part of the Obama years. And that was the carryover. And you really don't start saying much about anybody's first term of their economy until about a year and a half to 2 years in, which would have put Donald Trump at 2019. And he didn't do that damn well. Like I said, manufacturing jobs plummeted to 58,000 in that year, last year. And if you want to know about the economy and how Donald Trump is supposedly so great at the economy, and people are completely still don't understand why they're picking Donald Trump. Oh, he's so good at the economy. Well, here are the facts about the economy. Listen to this.
I'm Christine Romans in New York. The economic slump may linger. Half of the members of the prestigious National Association of Business Economics said growth won't recover until 2022. A majority don't expect the jobs market to fully recover until 2022 at the earliest. Worse, they forecast a 1 in 4 chance of a double-dip recession. It's a reminder that the stock market is not the economy. The S&P 500 and the NASDAQ have hit record highs, but millions are out of work and emergency stimulus has expired. The worry now, a so-called K-shaped recovery that widens the gap between winners and losers.
There you go. Putting paid to the lie. And I love the fact that Christine Romans was sure to make it very clear to people, as I have said numerous times here on this podcast in various episodes, that the stock market has no relationship whatsoever to the economy. And Donald Trump is running a con on you. He is scamming you to believe that somehow the stock market is the economy. It is not. As I said before, the stock market is comprised of the Dow Jones Index, 30 companies that make up that index, and it has no bearing on the economy at all. It is all about investors. That's what it's all about. Investors moving markets for these companies on Wall Street. Don't get fooled. And I love how Christine Romans just laid it out. The economy is the GDP. The economy is the deficit. The economy is unemployment numbers. And of course, they suck. So by definition, the economy sucks. So don't even try that BS with us. We were not born yesterday. We may have been born at night, but we weren't born last night. So under Donald Trump, the economy has sucked. I mean, it sucked big time. I mean, that's as blunt as I can put it. So don't let anybody fool you. Please quote that Christine Romans report from CNN. I think she does the business stuff on CNN. She's been in business for a long time. Financial, the CNN business. She does that all the time. She's been working at CNN now for, I think, close to 30 years. Ooh, dear. I mean, time flies. I remember watching her in the 90s. So I think it has been almost that long for her, certainly. And I would trust Christine Romans any day of the week over some lying freaks on a convention stage. So the bottom line is that is night one of the convention in the books. I mean, that's really the rough skeleton of what happened on night one and what a disaster it all was. I just really don't understand how people can take much of this. I had to watch it so that you could understand. But I can tell you that MSNBC repeatedly cut in to the convention because there were so many lies being told, particularly about hydroxychloroquine early on. And Rachel Maddow spoke to a doctor, Vin Gupta, and they had to, really confront and correct all the lies that Donald Trump was saying. So CNN interrupted as well, as did PBS. So at least 3 networks who were carrying this interrupted it. And with interviews or with fact checking or anything else. CNN did a lot of their fact checking after the fact, but they did some during, and MSNBC did a lot during. I mean, they stopped their broadcast on a number of occasions. And here's what, I've got to play this. Here's what Rachel Maddow had to actually say about that.
We are broadcasting this, of course, by choice. However, it is our responsibility to not unquestioningly broadcast potentially dangerous misinformation, especially of the medical variety. That's why we need to bring in, one more time, Dr. Vin Gupta.
That was Rachel Maddow last night, having to explain to viewers on MSNBC why she was cutting in to the convention broadcast, a Republican convention broadcast. She literally did that several times, and that was just part of what she had to say. Here's the close of the same segment with Dr. Vin Gupta speaking first.
Full regimen. It's why the president should not be making light of it and or joking about it.
Talking about taking it, especially when everybody knows that he hasn't had COVID, or they haven't said publicly that he's had COVID. So he's talking about taking it as essentially a preventative, not even just as a therapeutic, which is essentially inviting people to try to do that themselves, which again could be dangerous, which is why we're cutting in and why we're grateful to you, Dr. Gupta. Thank you very much. Again, I hope we do not have to do very much of this tonight, but we will do it when we need to. We're going to go back now to the kingdom.
Well, you actually did have to do you actually had to do a lot of that last night, Rachel. And she did. She cut in a couple more times. It is just incredible. This was not the case last week at the Democratic National Convention. The only time they cut in was when they were taking commercial breaks and when the convention literally had a break. But most of the convention last week didn't have many breaks or any breaks at all. And actually MSNBC, with Rachel anchoring the coverage, actually had to apologize for prematurely cutting away, and they had to cut back in for a commercial. They had to cut away. They cut away prematurely for a commercial break, not because the Democrats were telling lies. And then they came right back when they realized that they had broke away too early. So that was quite extraordinary to hear. But again, this is what you have to do in this Trump era, which is to fact check everything. Everything. I mean, Daniel Dale did the same thing last night on CNN. And you've got to listen to this from him. This will be the last piece of audio. But you've got to hear this from him. This is what he had to say.
This is a sampling. So we had Donald Trump Jr. suggest that Joe Biden described riots as, quote, peaceful protests. In fact, Biden explicitly condemned protest violence and looting. We had Nikki Haley describing Trump, the president, as an opponent of so-called cancel culture. The president has railed against so-called cancel culture, but he's also tried to get dozens of people, entities, companies canceled, including Goodyear just last week, and Macy's and Mexico, and a bunch of other entities in the past. A video had the president claiming that he kept every single promise he made. He certainly kept some, but not even close to all of them. Mexico hasn't paid for the wall. Obamacare isn't repealed. We haven't had 4% economic growth per year. That's just wrong. We had multiple speakers, from Congressman Steve Scalise and Jim Jordan, tout economic records that have been obliterated by the pandemic. They cited the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years. Well, we don't have that anymore. We're now at 10.2%, higher than at any time since the Great Recession. We heard a number of accusations about Joe Biden that just aren't true, that he wants to dismantle, defund the police. He's explicitly, repeatedly rejected that idea, that he wants to, quote, abolish the suburbs. This is just nonsense about an anti-segregation rule, that he wants open borders. He certainly wants a loosening of immigration policy, but not completely unrestricted migration. We heard extreme hyperbole. One speaker, Natalie Harp, said that we'd, quote, be lucky if we could see any doctor at all under Joe Biden's healthcare plan. That's just ludicrous. And Jake, I think the biggest revisionist history was the suggestion that Trump, unlike various Democrats, did not downplay the coronavirus pandemic. He's the one who said we'd go from 15 cases to close to zero. He's the one who suggested it would go away with warm weather in April. He's the one who said into March that it was under control. So the suggestion that Democrats were wrong and Trump was right is just unmoored from reality, Jake.
Just a small sampling of the lies. Daniel Dale fact-checked, and I've had to fact-check as well. On this episode of The Politicrat. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Omar Moore.
Was just totally changed. Thank God he's alive. So we're just praying for a great recovery, that he may have a great quality of life, and that his father, my brother, can enjoy him.
And they say they are so thankful that Mr. Blake is alive, but we have learned from his father that indeed at this moment he is paralyzed from the waist down. What we do not yet know, and what doctors have not been able to ascertain, according to his father, is whether or not this is going to be something that is permanent, or whether or not it's swelling, and perhaps he may be able to have movement in the future. But there is a lot of concern from the family now about how his life will proceed once he is able to come out of the hospital, though he is expected to survive.